Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Joining me today is Joe Cote, who is Chief Growth Officer for Merchant Growth. Thanks, Joe, for joining us today.
Mario, thank you for having me.
I'm going to talk, and we're going to talk a little bit about a survey, a recent survey you folks did, and looking at tariffs. First of all, Joe, what is the impact? Like, how many businesses are being impacted by this whole tariff situation?
Well, it was interesting because we surveyed just over 130 businesses this last go around. We did the survey initially to figure out what did they anticipate and now what's actually happening. And what we're seeing is over 50% of them have already been negatively impacted either by US tariffs or the reciprocal Canadian counter tariffs.
Hmm. Now, that's a significant number, isn't it? Like, in terms of the impact overall this is going to have on the Canadian economy.
Oh yeah, it's quite sizable. I mean, when we think about I love to tell the story that our small, medium-sized business owners are the heroes of our economy. They are the most resilient. And when we're talking about some fairly alarming numbers that over 50% of them are immediately impacted across the country, across industries, and whether it is direct or indirect by virtue of sub-suppliers or other Canadians that have unfortunately been impacted by said tariffs, and then that knock-on effect of the spend in their local small businesses. So it's quite substantial already.
Let's talk about a couple of the key implications, I guess, of this. One would be layoffs. What are you hearing about layoffs, and what can we expect in that regard?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see some of the feedback that we've received from them that about 30% so far of small businesses have either already made changes to their workforce by unfortunately reducing staffing and or have just planned to delay hiring and or backfilling of said roles, which for a small business, that innately means I have to take on more. Again, these resilient small business owners are now having to already pick up more slack, that they're trying to do more with less. And they don't have the same benefits as some of these larger multinationals. You know, we hear the stories in the headlines of Stellantis temporarily, mind you, laying off 4,500 Canadians. And the small businesses don't have that same kind of leverage, let alone the small businesses that operate in those areas in particular, where 4,500 Canadians is a really big number in a concentrated area to also not only unfortunately impact the Canadians themselves, but the small businesses locally that they generally support.
Now, another obvious implication that as companies deal with this situation, besides laying off people, it's increasing costs of what they're selling, right? And how did the survey see what's happening in that regard?
Yeah, certainly there's been a quite substantial increase in cost that's already been absorbed. So among those that we've actually seen the cost increases, about 40% of them actually had to pass on those cost increases to their customers. Now, this is what I love about small businesses. They generally are trying to absorb as much of those cost increases. So even though 40% have passed on some of those cost increases, they have also been passing on less than 25% of that cost increase. Think about the impact of the small business margins. It's quite a story there.
Exactly. And when you look at the businesses, what are they looking for themselves from in the way of support, say from governments, and what would they like?
Yeah, there's a an interesting wide range of uh, interests that small business owners have. Part of it is what they think the platforms are offering them, which are generally tax deferrals, and or for those that not that long ago lived through COVID with SEBA renewal or with SEBA loans, it it's another burden of a loan. It's a deferred burden of tax relief, but it's also generally the only thing that's been offered to them. So those are generally, I'd say, the highest level sentiment of what small business owners are looking for. Yet we're also seeing some feedback around a little bit more immediate, permanent support for small businesses so that we're not treating all businesses the same from a government standpoint. We're not necessarily saying that this needs to be give them, I would say, kind of the fish for free. This is a little bit more of the how do we actually support small businesses with payroll, with small business taxes? How do we make it easier for them to access cross-border goods? And also, just generally, the theme is capital. Small businesses need capital to be able to weather the storm, reposition their businesses, and that is the overarching theme that we've certainly heard from them.
All right, last question for you, Joe. Tell me just a little bit about merchant growth and what you folks do.
Well, so Merchant Growth, very, very proud to support Canadian small businesses across the country, across all industries. We are a fintech that is really there to bridge the gap of financing and support solutions for small businesses beyond what traditional banks can or cannot do. Our focus is very much on leveraging technology and overemphasize the personal customer service for supporting small businesses. So we're all about fast, flexible financing solutions that we actually can deliver within 24 hours.
Well, thanks so much, Joe, for joining us today.
Mario, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, that was Joe Cote, who is Chief Growth Officer for Merchant Growth. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today.